Have you ever read or heard of this book? Let's see if I can get it in frame. It's by Romeo Dallaire. It's called Shake Hands with the Devil. It's a terrible read in the sense it's just horrific. It's like you're in hell when you read this. It's about the Rwandan genocide where the Hutus were slaughtering the Tutsis with machetes. And when you read this book, you're going to have nightmares, or you should have nightmares if you're human. Dallaire, after he got out, he survived it. After he got out, he attempted suicide, and it took him to hell. Two things that I always think about when I think of this book. One, he was asked after he got out of Rwanda and saw hundreds of thousands of people butchered in cold blood, children, hacked to pieces. They said, "Do you believe in God after seeing that much evil?" And before I give you his answer, let me set the scene. He had to have a meeting with the Hutus, the leadership of the Hutus. The Hutus were the ones doing the slaughtering. And he had to make a deal with them. And anyways, at the end of the meeting, he had to shake hands with the leader of the genocide. And he says in there, "I've never felt something so diabolical, something so evil, so heinous when I shook his hand. It's like he was soulless." So when he was later asked, "Do you believe in God?" he said, "Yes, I believe in God because I've shook hands with the devil." That's why the book is named Shake Hands with the Devil. I don't know if that's an argument for God, but for him it was. I don't know if it's a convincing argument for God, but for him it was. The other aspect of this book, or scene in this book, that makes me, that I always bring up when I talk about it. It's early in the book, it's just a little passage, but it makes me stop. And it makes me worry about some of the dynamics we have in this country, in America. Now, when I say this, obviously, I'm not comparing America to what was happening in Rwanda in the 90s. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm also of the mind that, and you'll hear me say this often, you should kill monsters while they're small. Meaning, as terrible ideologies start to arise and as they start to faintly echo terrible, murderous ideologies from the past, we need to snuff those out with argument. We need to remind people just where this leads, or could potentially lead. And even if it doesn't lead to genocide and massacre, it leads to the fraying of the fabric of a society. Okay, so there's just this little passing, it's not even a scene in the book, it's just a little paragraph. He says in there, when we first got to Rwanda, some of his men were out in the countryside and they were visiting the schools, and they reported back that, just as kind of a notation, that, oh, by the way, in the schools they're starting to label the children whether they're Tutsi or Hutu. And he says we should have taken that more seriously. That was an ominous warning sign. Again, I am not saying what's happening in America has anything like the dynamics of what transpired in Rwanda, but there is that faint echo, that faint parallel when you're in the university. Now, I've an undergrad degree and I'm completing 2 master's degrees. Spent a lot of time in school. I've completed the coursework for 2 master's degrees. I'm doing the thesis for 2 master's degrees presently. And you do see this sort of thinking, this race consciousness, this designating people based on ethnicity. You see it every day. So when they try to tell you woke isn't dangerous or anything like that, or, when they start to go down that path, I just think that no, you will never convince me that this is healthy. That's not to deny the sins of America's past at all, not to deny that. But, and it's not to say that something like colorblindness doesn't have its downsides. It certainly does. But colorblindness versus any other idea we have, any other ideology we have, generally speaking, is the best idea. Doesn't mean it's perfect. Notice I didn't say perfect, I said best. When you're dealing with a multicultural society, to try to see beyond skin color is absolutely necessary. We have the word balkanization. I'll do other videos on what happened in the Balkans, but you don't want society splitting into racial factions, ethnic factions. That is what you do not want to have happen in a society. So color blindness, I sometimes call it color backgroundness, meaning obviously you see color, so you're not completely blind to color. I have black friends. I know they're black, okay? But it's in the background. Like when I interact with them, the fact that they're black is in the background. There are times when color should be brought to the foreground, but generally speaking, we want to keep it in the background as often as possible and treat people as individuals. So it's a little scary when you see how CRT, the woke ideology, has proliferated and spread into schools, from elementary school, junior high, high school, college, and just kind of in not only there but in corporations. And I just don't think it's healthy. In fact, I think it's very dangerous. Without resorting to the relativism of saying, hey, this is just like Rwanda in 1995. No, I'm saying it's a faint echo. There are many, many differences between what was happening in Rwanda and what's happening here. But we have to point out where there are similarities. And this is the type of thing we don't want to embrace. The type of, these are the things we don't want to echo from the past. So this book, if you want to read it, it's long, it's big, it's a pretty big book, but it makes you wise, and I think it gives you an ability to recognize evil as it arises in your nation, your society, your city, your town, your county, your state. And it's great and good that finally, some conservatives are pushing back against this. Now, of course, there's some danger on the far right too, and we need to keep an eye on those people as well and kill those monsters while they're small, the Nick Fuentes types. So, my name is Dylan. Please like, share, and follow.